Hi, my name is Christopher Malcolm, and welcome to Movable Canvas, where we talk about cinema, art, culture, and where all three of those things intersect. In today's episode, we'll discuss Billy Wilder's 1950s masterpiece, Sunset Boulevard. Billy Wilder is my favorite director. I mean, there are others who come close to the mantle, but if you look at the entirety of a filmmaker's career as opposed to just a limited collection of their best films, it's hard to argue that any other filmmaker is responsible for as many purely perfect films and even more perfect final lines than Billy Wilder. Of course, as Billy Wilder closes his film Some Like It Hot, nobody's perfect. But we consider that, in my opinion at least, the three best final lines in Hollywood history being nobody's perfect, shut up and deal, and all right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close up. Were all written by the same person. It's hard not to bend the knee. That last closing line put the cap on the film we'll be discussing today. It's hard to talk about a film like Sunset Boulevard because, in many ways, it's hard to know where to start. I mean, do we talk about the iconic performance by Gloria Swanson as a forgotten movie star named Norman Desmond? A performance so big that it's the ship that launched 1,000 memes? A performance that is also so layered with Hollywood commentary that to fully appreciate its depth, it helps if you know something about the real Gloria Swanson as well as the handful of other Hollywood legends that appear throughout the film. Do we start with the early shot of a body floating in a pool? Do we discuss the way Wilder plays with audience expectations and misdirects our attention while putting the film's outcome really right there out in plain sight? How do we even categorize the film? I mean, for some reason, I've seen it listed as a film noir, although as a big purveyor of film noir, I have to say that other than it being in black and white, this film isn't exactly the best fit for that specific category, at least as far as I'm concerned. As a Los Angelino, I consider Sunset Boulevard to be one of the quintessential films about Los Angeles. In its geography and its tone, few films come closer to capturing the dark underbelly of the City of Angels. Schwab's Pharmacy plays a key role. I mean, the other day I was actually on the Paramount lot, parked in a structure near Lemon Grove Avenue, which is the street where Nancy Olsen's Betty Schaefer's character says she was raised by her industry parents. I'm also a big enough nerd to have actually gone to see the location where William Holden's character's apartment building was in Hollywood. And as a history buff, I can't help but to get a kick out of seeing what Los Angeles itself looked like in 1950s prior to how far it's developed today. The famous Norman Desmond house, by the way, is actually not on Sunset Boulevard. Rather, it was on the corner of Crenshaw and Irving, and you might recognize the pool as it was actually later used in Rebel Without a Cause. But enough of me nerding out and back to the topic at hand. So many places I could begin, but I guess the real question is to delve into a little of what Sunset Boulevard is about. Beyond the basic plot lines, why thematically does it have the power to stick with us nearly 3/4 of a century since its first release? I've subtitled this essay The Boulevard of Broken Dreams, and I think that sums up fairly well the central conflict faced by all of its main characters. That moniker might suggest a far more somber film, but of course in the skilled hands of Billy Wilder, the result is anything but. Yet the entertainment provided rests on the story of three characters at various points in their career. Well, four, but I'll talk about that in a second. Our main character is Joe Gillis, played by William Holden. He's a down-on-his-luck screenwriter struggling to make ends meet through a dry patch. He's like many artists who have had enough success to have some industry contacts and reputation, but not enough success to have a sustainable career. As someone who makes my own living via an artistic career of this portrayal, it definitely rings true. Both in the daily hustle of Joe's life, where he's constantly on the lookout for any angle he can work, but also in the permanently kind of jaded outlook you get when you've been around long enough to see how the factory works from the inside. The female leads in the film serve as different points on the spectrum. Betty Schaefer is a young screenwriter and potential love interest to William Holden's character. The fact that she's dating one of William Holden's best friends at the top of the film adds to the somewhat amoral nature of the lead character. Of course, lead characters with questionable morality is one of Billy Wilder's strengths. See Double Indemnity for an example. But she also reflects the naive optimism of an artist early in their career. She's still motivated to succeed. The dream is very real to her. And Joe Gillis can't help but to find this optimism and pluck, long since faded in himself, alluring when he sees this in a beautiful young woman. Norman Desmond lives at the opposite end of the spectrum. She's had her success, huge success. At one point, she was one of the biggest stars in Hollywood. Her dilemma isn't in acquiring fame. Her dilemma is in how does one cope with the loss of fame. It's nearly impossible to make it to the mountaintop, but even more difficult once you've been to the mountaintop to fall from grace. Just think of a great athlete who holds on to the game a little too long, or a retiree who can't stop talking about their glory days even though the world has long since moved on. Norma Desmond has never accepted that the world could move on. She's still a star in her own mind, and to no longer be desired is a fate worse than death. The delusion that she is still a star is, of course, helped along by her doting butler, Max von Meyerling, played by actual Hollywood legend Erich von Stroheim. This is another example of Wilder using some inside Hollywood knowledge to deepen the effect of the story. At one point, Max reveals that not only is he one of Norma's ex-husbands, but he's also the director who discovered her. He explains that he, Cecil B. DeMille, and D.W. Griffith were contemporaries, and that he was at one point in time known as one of the most promising directors in Hollywood. What contemporary viewers might not know is that Erich von Stroheim was, in fact, one of the most famous movie directors during the time that Gloria Swanson was actually in her heyday as a silent movie actress. He directed films such as Greed and The Wedding March. He even directed Swanson in 1932's Queen Kelly. Von Stroheim's character, Max, has sacrificed his own success for the woman that he loves. His devotion to Norma is being so complete that his dream is really simply to be by her side. Not that Norma feels the same. I mean, to a certain degree, she finds both Max and Joe only mildly more entertaining than she likely found her late pet, the monkey, whose funeral serves as the basis for Joe and Norma's initial meeting. Her attraction to Joe isn't about really a mutual chemistry between them. He represents a chance to be desired. He represents someone to look upon her as the female romantic lead who she continues to envision herself to be. Joe sees her simply as a paycheck. The film opens with Joe trying to evade the bill collectors who are determined to repossess his automobile. The car for Joe represents his last vestiges of freedom. Like a teenage boy getting his first car, mobility represents the possibility and independence. For Joe, losing his car isn't just the loss of a financial investment, it's the loss of his manhood. He sees Norma's deep bank account as a way to kind of rescue that independence, to rescue that freedom. But in reality, by literally and figuratively getting into bed with Norma, he loses both the car and the independence before ultimately being reduced to little more than her new trained monkey. All the characters in Sunset Boulevard have dreams deferred. Even Betty's original dream was to be an actress prior to turning to screenwriting. But the lengths each character will go to in order to maintain their dream is at the heart of what makes the story so special. Norma is so desperate to cling to her dream that she loses her sanity. Max is so desperate to hold on to his dream that he's willing to sacrifice his own career to hold on to Norma. Joe Gillis is so desperate to hold on to his dream that ultimately gets him killed. As Gillis quips during the voiceover, he's ultimately just a lowly screenwriter, and the only reason the story makes the front page is because there's a famous actress involved. Sunset Boulevard isn't so much about the glitz of Hollywood, but rather the edges of the town. It's about the dreamers and what happens to those whose dreams have been deferred. It's a masterwork by one of Hollywood's greatest filmmakers, and it's always ready for its close-up. Thanks for watching another episode of Movable Canvas, where we talk about cinema, art, culture. If you love the movies and you like this type of content, be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons below and let me know what you think of the film in the comments. Have you ever seen the movie? I think I'm one of the double digits now for the times I've rewatched it. I'm actually going to see it again at the end of the month on the big screen. Of all of Billy Wilder's greatest closing lines, which is your favorite? And which of Billy Wilder's films is your favorite? As much as I love Sunset Boulevard, my favorite film of his is in fact, my favorite film of all time is, well, for that you'll have to stay tuned for a future review. Thanks again for watching and have a great day.